Good morning. My name is Sally Chambliss, and I am a 2-year into retirement, retired visual arts teacher from Montgomery, Alabama. Anna has asked if I would give some of my best tips for getting back into the classroom and starting the new year off right. So here are some of my favorites. Number one, let your students see your personality. Be the same person you are in your classroom, in the hallway, when you see them in the lunchroom. So let them really see who you are and be that person. It just helps them communicate with you in the entire school climate. Number two, seating charts. Seating charts are a big deal, I know, through elementary school and even middle school. I tended to let my students sit where they wanted to. I soon found that if I let them sit where they wanted to, they gravitated to their personality types, which was sometimes good. Seating arrangements that needed to be changed were based on productivity, and also per project if they needed to mentor each other with certain ideas. But basically, I found that letting them choose their own seats was helpful with how they worked. Now, my classroom did have individual tables per student, even though I would group them together in 3s and 4s so that they could face each other and have a little bit of communication during certain projects. So, number 3. I usually try to start the school year off with a project that showed me some of their personality and let them express themselves. If possible, I worked my project into the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts call for entries for their artworks gallery. Most of the time, the museums near and around you have student artwork exhibitions that you can use to help correlate excitement in the classroom and energy as far as their personality and what they can express. And also it allows the school to be part of a community within the community itself, not just the school environment. Number 4, speaking of community, create a sense of community in your classroom. Let the kids have ownership, their responsibility in the classroom, their cleanup time, taking care of supplies. I gave a 25% grade every week, or 25 points a week, just for doing everything you're supposed to do in the classroom. It had nothing to do with your creativity, nothing to do with how good your project was going, but just 25 points a week based on you took care of supplies, you did your best, you kept your area clean, and you were productive and positive in the classroom. And number 5, I feel like each project that we did had about 4 parts. Mostly the sketching, the beginning, the introduction part was very important in their creating a timeline and using our guidelines and objectives as far as when the project was supposed to be completed. I feel like each project in high school needs about a 50% completion grade, because I had students who could do excellent work but do it like in the last 3 days of the project, which means they weren't being quite as productive in working in class, but then they could take it home and maybe finish it within 3 or 4 days. A 50% completion grade keeps everybody on task and allows you to see the progress. So depending on whether it's a 3-week, 4-week, 6-week project timeline, find a guide within that space for a 50% completion grade. It helped me. I also was a big fan of Google Classroom or some digital upload to see progress at certain points. It also allowed me to do some of my grading at home instead of having to stay in the classroom after school for 2 and 3 hours some days to grade completed final projects. So Google Classroom or some other digital form upload was a great help. It also let me zoom in and see, even though I was in the classroom and I saw what they were doing every day, walking around, keeping an eye on things, it just gave me some substantial, concrete, something to look at, especially if I had to have a parent conference. That came in handy. And then the last thing is, please have fun with your kids. Have fun in the classroom. Do your research and create projects that really allow them to find what their creative outlet is. Some kids would come into the classroom having had no art experience since third grade. And by tempering the climate, finding out who your students were, playing around, you got to play in the classroom and find out what kind of techniques and mediums are the best used for certain projects, and let them have a say in how their creative juice flows. By that, I mean they may not have the best concrete idea when they start out on a project, but let them have the time to play with a medium and express themselves, and eventually they find their best qualities, their best use of a medium, and find that they're great at some projects and not so many others. Also, one last thing, if there's a way to add a written commentary or a written portion to the project, sometimes students express themselves best when they're allowed to write about what they were thinking, because it may not be as obvious to us. The viewer needs to be interested in the artwork, but sometimes what the artist intended the viewer to see is not connected. It just allowed me to see a little bit more of their character and personality. It didn't have to be a graded portion or a part of the outcome, but it did allow me to see a portion of who they were, their thoughts and ideas, and also their past experiences. Their past experiences spoke really clearly when you allow them to talk about the artwork that they had just created. I hope you have a great start to the new year. I'll be thinking about everybody getting back into the classroom, hopefully without mask, but also with the right supplies, the right attitudes, and some projects that will really get you started on the way. If you ever have any questions, please email me and I'll ask Anna to add that to the link below. Thank you.